Welcome. I'm so happy to be talking to you today about this question just here above me. What is communication? First, congratulations. You're coming to the end of high school, which is a massive achievement. Yeah, give them some love out there in the audience. So, what is communication? It's a good question. We're going to start with that. That's going to be part one. Part two, what can you do with a degree in communication? I'm also going to talk to you about that briefly. And then part three, at the end of this little talk, I'll just bring up briefly a few of the amazing courses that we offer that will be a part of that education in our program. Before I jump into all that, let me just tell you who I am. My name's Ethan Plout. I'm a lecturer in communication here at the University of Auckland. You can probably tell already from my voice I'm not of this place. I've been here for a couple of years, but I'm from Chicago. I spent about the last decade before I came here in California in the Bay Area around San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and that. I did my PhD out there in communication research, and I've also studied computer science when I was there. Before that, I was a journalist and always and forever a music nerd. So let that be told. Uh, Part of what I love about communication as a field is that all of those things are in play. All of them. So, how does that work? What is communication? This video, right now, it has a lot of the moving pieces of an answer to that question. Last year, there was no video for open day. I was in a room with teenagers like yourselves and their parents, some free food, and there was a guy or a woman or somebody in a big fuzzy Kiwi mascot suit taking pictures with people. But this is 2020. We've had to adapt. A lot of things happened this year. I'm sure y'all read some of it, read about that a little bit, experienced some of it. And so as we adapt to changing situations, I think communication is a really critical field for understanding everything that's happening and for finding our way through. Why? Because communication as a field stretches from the spoken word to writing to images to broadcast media to digital technologies like social media and video games, and yes, this video that is streaming to you right now. So, how would we understand this video from the perspective of communication research? Well, we might start with my intention. So, I have this intention to recruit you to come study with me and my colleagues. Well, what's my choice of words in trying to persuade you to do that? And my laptop that sits here, how does it work? And what software am I using? Well, I'm using Zoom, which, by the way, is a total privacy nightmare, leaking data out of all of its sides, Facebook on one side, hackers on the other side. Those kinds of questions about privacy and your rights and the kind of fragility of digital media, I think, so we might talk about. But then, now that we have this video recorded, how is it communicated to you? Well, through routers and wires and satellites, sure, to the screen where you watch it now, but also, and perhaps more to the point, what's going on with you? Because we study audiences, we study people. So there's a good example of this. We have a whole class, Communication 202, audiences and users, where we're not talking about the production of media, we're talking about reception. And in that, for example, you'd have a project where you go out and you interview people about their favorite media or about problems that they're having with their devices. Try and find out the ways that their communities are formed through technology. And in some sense, that's precisely it, right? We study the ways that media technologies bring people together and also tear us apart. To understand society now, we have to really understand media technologies, and to really understand digital technologies today, it's not just about understanding technical questions, it's also about understanding some of their history. So let me reach way back, way back, and give you an example to kind of point out how that historical perspective might help us to understand what's going on right now. So, in Plato's Phaedrus, this is one of the Socratic dialogues from ancient times. Socrates is concerned about the new media technology of his day. And, it wasn't TikTok, it wasn't Zoom, it was the written word. Now, to even think of writing as a technology might seem strange to you, but of course, very abstractly, of course it's a technology, right? You have something you write on, you have a tool that you're writing with, you have the system of symbols. So why was Socrates so concerned about this? Well, a number of reasons. But one of them was that he thought it would make people forgetful. That if they had access to all kinds of things being written down, and they were able to write things down instead of committing them to memory, that they would become forgetful. Now, this might sound a little odd to you, and in some ways, of course, it is odd, and maybe it's out of step with the times, such as they are. But if you listen to it very carefully, you can hear a very similar concern to something that you might have heard in your own lives, which is that, and this is something perhaps people of your parents' generation might have told you, oh yeah, young people today, they don't memorize anything, they don't learn anything because they think they can just Google it. Oh yeah, you have all the facts in the world at your fingertips because they're all on Wikipedia or wherever it is that you look for your information. And so therefore you don't take it upon yourself to learn all of those things. If you step back, that's pretty close to the concerns that Socrates brought up about the written word, right? So these same kinds of concerns and also the same hopes that we have about media of the past then reemerge with the media of the present. Believe it or not, for example, when television first came out, there were these great dreams that it was going to educate everybody around the world, and we would have brotherhood among people from distant corners of the earth because we could see how each other lived and we could all be educated and it would bring about world peace. Well, television didn't do any of that. You know what? Some of those same hopes came up about the internet. The internet didn't end up doing any of that either. Maybe some of it. I don't want to be too cynical. Of course, there's good and bad that come with all these new technologies. But the point that I'm trying to get at here is that historical perspective of understanding the new media of the past, which is the old media of today, so to speak, helps us to understand the new media that we have now and the next thing that's still coming. Hopefully that helps you to understand something like Google in a slightly different way. I could also tell you some things about search algorithms from a more technical perspective, but one takeaway I hope that you might get from this brief video is that technologies are cultural objects, right? Not just the messages that are communicated through media, but the technologies themselves. That's part of our culture now. So as promised, now I'm going to talk very briefly about what you might do with a degree in communication. So by some estimates or projections, you are likely to have 3 different careers in your life. And to be clear, I'm not saying 3 different jobs. I'm saying 3 different careers, 3 different, completely different kinds of job. Whole industries are changing very fast right now. New kinds of automation are replacing workers. At the same time, new kinds of work are emerging. A critical thing that you need to learn is how to adapt. As I quipped at the beginning of this talk, 2020 has been showing us a little bit about that, demanding that we prove we can adapt to new and different situations. I think this degree would help you to do that. In particular, let me give you three reasons why communication. One, pick any industry out there that has communication professionals. There's really no such thing as an industry that doesn't have people that do that. And there are good reasons for that, right? And even if you're not in a communication position, this is point number two, being an excellent communicator is indispensable to whatever you're going to do, pretty much, because you're going to be working with people. Um, that's something that technologies can't replace. Point number three is that you come and work with us. We're not just talking about traditional communication skills like writing, although you will learn that, and I think that's very important. Um, I'm also talking about developing expertise with new technologies. And again, not to belabor the point, but find me an industry that doesn't need people with some technical expertise. We have classes in advertising, journalism, social media, gender issues, sports media, politics. We have a new course in research methods. I'm really excited about this being taught by a specialist in Chinese social media who's just joined us. I teach a course where you make things like Twitter bots and data visualizations. Those creative projects in some classes are related to visions of the future of communication. That's something that we can read about and we can talk about, but you also get opportunities to try out things like virtual reality and flying drones and interacting with robots and other virtual agents. This is really interesting. Communication is largely talked about as something that people do with other people, even if we're doing it through some technology. That technology is just in the middle. That there's always people on either end. And just something to think about coming out of this talk and moving forward into the future is, what is communication when you're not really talking to another person, but talking to one of these virtual agents like Siri, if you have an iPhone, right? Or obviously there are lots of other virtual agents out there, whether it's from Amazon or any of a number of places, but the Siri example is one that a lot of people would know. So, like, how does Siri work? Why does Siri have a female voice? How has our world changed by the ability to just say a question out loud and get the answer? I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure Socrates would like it, but we live in very interesting times, and I hope to see you next year. All right, take it easy, everybody. Bye.